Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Folklore Friday with me, George, and today we're going to be talking about the brownie. Now, before I begin, this video is kind of going to be in two parts. There's going to be this video, and then after there will be another video that will be the bug art, which I'm going to, give it a couple of weeks and I'll release that. Because the bug art is basically like an evil alter ego of the brownie in a very malevolent form. Now, the brownie, in terms of regions around the UK, would be found at the Highlands and Lowlands of Scotland and the north of England. And it would be given various different names, particularly in Scotland. There would be various different Scots Gaelic references to it and different names, which I have, but I'm not pronouncing because that's going to be horrific and you will all howl and laugh, and I do not speak Scots Gaelic. So good luck with that. I will put the names around this video so you guys can have a look. The terminology for a brownie in the northwest of England around the Lancashire area was normally either a hob, which is a nickname for the name Robert, also a generic term for a buggle, a goblin, a brownie, and also it would be called a Dobby. Interesting, I'm pretty sure everyone's heard that name, the creature, the house elf in Harry Potter series. That J.K. Rowling, has created, and you can definitely tell that there's a big influence there, because you'll see in regards to the issue of giving clothes. So, John Brand in 1703 was a Scottish minister who wrote the following: "Not above 40 or 50 years ago, every family had a brownie or evil spirit so called, which served them, to which they gave a sacrifice for his service. As when they churned their milk, they took a part thereof and sprinkled every corner of the house with it, for brownie's use. Likewise, when they brewed, they had a stone which they called a brownie's stain, wherein there was a little hole into which they poured some wort for a sacrifice to brownie." Wort is part of kind of the mashing and fermentation process of brewing alcohol beer. They also had some stacks of corn, for which they called brownies stacks, which though they were not bound with straw ropes or in any way fenced as other stacks used to be, yet it was said that the greatest storm or wind would never be able to blow them over. So there is the brownie stone, but there is also another reference to a stone called a Dobby stone. Interestingly enough, again, that name. And a Dobby stone is exactly that. It's a stone where there is a hole in for which an offering is to be given to the spirits, the household spirits, the spirit of that house. Brownies are fae, they are fairies, but they're also domestic. They are industrial spirits, and they would help around the house. They would bring good luck to a property. So a brownie of an evening, which they worked only by night, would sweep the house. They would maybe mop the floor, wipe the sides. They would maybe sew. They would do all these things, all these household chores for the house. If you was in a farm, a brownie would make sure that the grains and the harvest would be bountiful and plentiful. A brownie would make sure the livestock and the cattle were well and whole. They would make sure that the milk was not stale. They would make sure the butter was churned. All these things, they would bring good luck to the property and ensure everything kind of went over. If you were in a shop, a brownie would bring in business, it would bring in custom, it would bring in finance and prosperity and abundance to that shop. The folklorist John Gregory Campbell, interestingly enough, talks about the differences between the brownie in England and the brownie in Scotland. And he says that brownies in England live inside homes and are more domestic, whilst most Scottish brownies reside in waterways such as streams and behind waterfalls. And the Scottish brownies prefer farming over household chores. And at certain points of the year, it was also said that then the Scottish brownies would come into the household and reside for a part. Now, in England, there would also be a chair by the fire, by the hearth of the fire, which would be called Brownie's chair. And basically it was for after Brownie had finished doing all these household chores and helping out the household, he could relax, he could sit by the fire, he could rest himself by the fire. And it was kind of, in a sense, it was a place dedicated for him. In terms of places dedicated for them though, sorry, I've got my notes here, I'm not like going crazy with my eyes. brownies would live in parts of the houses that people would often leave alone. Okay, so it would often be places that people didn't really reside, or that people left alone. So it could be, for instance, a pantry, a larder. It could be pots. It could be a specific pot that nobody touches and everybody knows to leave that spot alone. Or there would also be a space at the top of on a windowsill when nobody would go and everybody would leave alone. There's a lot of folklore about brownies kind of enjoying being ignored, not having too much attention, though of course they were given offerings. So when you gave an offering to a brownie, it wasn't in a sense as payment. You didn't give an offering to a brownie for payment. You weren't paying it. It was rather given an offering as a token of appreciation for the brownie being there. And there would be various different offerings. So for instance, milkmaids were said to be bothered by a lot of brownies because the brownie would kind of be a bit mischievous and mess about with the milkmaid until the milkmaid was forced to give an offering of milk or cream, and the brownie would be off and have its way. Porridge and honey was also said to be a big offering to the brownie. Bread, alcohol. There are loads of different offerings that were given to the brownie as a token of appreciation. You didn't really thank the brownie, you just gave it as a token of appreciation. Now, in terms of their appearance, they are often described as small and hairy and sometimes completely starkers, naked. Or there are some accounts that describe them, particularly in Scotland, with flowing yellow hair, a blue cap and a long staff that they carried. There are also some stories. There's a story in around Stirling area of Scotland where I believe the name of the brownie is Ted Lowry, or also Red Bonnet, and he wore a red bonnet. Now, in terms of sex, the brownie was often 9 times out of 10 male. There's not really many accounts of female brownies, but when female brownies were around, it was said to be their wife. And the female brownie was said to live up a chimney, and they were said to have long arms and went by the name of Meg or Maggies, and they were said to be strictly maternal. Now, I think I've said everything. I hope, because if I redo this video again, I swear to I've done this video like 20 times and I'm going to scream if I do it again. Like, ah. But this folklore of the brownie, could this be an echo of household gods? So for instance, the older times, the older tribes within England and Scotland, there would be household gods, and each house would have a particular god that they worked with. Could this perhaps be an echo of the past? Could these brownies be an echo of a household god? Don't know. Before I go, and I'm so glad I haven't forgot about this, because this is where the Dobby and the clothes part come in. The brownie would be quite temperamental in the sense of it would have particular ethics and morals that it went by. So for instance, if you were said to give a brownie a piece of clothing, that would offend the brownie. And the brownie would do one of two things. The brownie would either flee the property, flee the vicinity where it was, taking all the luck with it, which you think doesn't really sound so bad. But by that, the cattle would die, the crops would die, prosperity wouldn't come into the shop anymore, the milk would never, the butter would never churn, people would start to go hungry, people may lose their jobs around the house. All these kind of things would happen because the brownie would take the luck away. And then the worst is if the brownie then got angry by giving it clothes, which is one of the greatest offences to a brownie, and it would turn into a boggart, which is basically an alter ego of the brownie, which is very just malevolent. Brownies could be mischievous, and they could play tricks on people that lived in their houses as well. But they had various things, so they never liked to be spied upon of a night. You never spied upon a brownie because that would piss it off. And if you pissed off a brownie, you would pay. You know, some of the ways in which brownies would pay back people would be quite unforgiving. So it was always a good thing to have a brownie, but at the same time, it would be a thing where you would have to be very, very careful about etiquette. And it had particular etiquette around it. So You would also never take the piss out of it. You would never take the piss out of the brownie or the work that it's done, or criticise its housework or its chores. That again would annoy it. But the greatest offence was giving a brownie clothing. That would flee it or turn it into a bugger. So in the Harry Potter novels, where it's like, Dobby is free, you gave Dobby a sock. Well, yeah, but in real life, Dobby would be free, but Dobby had cut a bitch as well. So yes. Over and out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There is so much more information I could go on about the brownie, but I'm not going to, because I want you guys to do the digging as well. So please have a look. If you guys have any comments, you guys have any questions, please comment underneath. Please like this video. As always, don't forget to subscribe, and please share this as well, because, you know, it means a lot for, you know, people watching my videos. It's a real honor. So yeah. Over and out, and peace. I hope you enjoyed this Folklore Friday.